David Akubian, Bearwoods Photography and Tamron Image Master. I was asked a couple weeks ago to test a firmware version upgrade from V1 to the V2 version firmware for the lens, the 50-400, and my first thought was really what can be improved, because I've been super pleased with it. I've had, an extremely high success rate with the tracking, and I really didn't think that there could be much improvement, but I still wanted to do it, and I was sort of proved wrong. So to give you an idea of what I wanted to do in the test, and I'll throw some images in there and I'll throw a little bit of video. Even though I'm primarily a nature photographer, I started thinking of how to make it a fair test, how to test the lens and not my skills. So what I did was I decided that I would photograph consistent objects that weren't birds, that weren't zipping left to right, that were going to test my skills to keep in constant contact with it. But I wanted to test something that was moving very, very quickly, and I wanted to test different contrast. I wanted to test different lighting, so I decided to go to some of the windy roads around here, and eventually I went to a racetrack. And they were having some cars that were out there that were doing some rides and runs and races, and it was cars of different sizes, cars of different color. The lighting was fairly consistent at the place that I photographed the race cars, but on the roads around here I had motorcycles, I had cars, I had vans, I had trucks, everything. So that was the first thing that I wanted to do, is I wanted to have some consistency. So the test that I did, I tested in different focus modes. I tested in single spot, small, medium, large, zone tracking. I did all of them in a tracking mode, and I wanted to test on my Sony A1 with the 50-400 what exactly the results could be just relying on the lens. So first I did handheld, I did continuous focus, and in very, very quick burst modes. And typically I would hold it down for bursts of 2 to 3 seconds. So I was getting typically somewhere around 15 to 20 frames per second. It seemed like sometimes it would be 15, sometimes it would be higher. With the continuous focus, and then, like I said, the different focusing modes. Like I said, I did handheld, and I panned with subjects on some of them. Then I did some of them on a gimbal. I did some of them on a tripod, stationary, let the vehicle enter, hit the focus button, lock it on, track it through the frame. So again, I didn't want to test my skills as a photographer. I wanted to have an even playing field for the lens and for virtually any photographer that would pick that up. So to give you an idea, I went out on 4 different occasions. The first day wasn't super productive. There weren't a lot of vehicles that came down this curvy road, but I think I still ended up doing about 400 frames. And out of those 400 frames, every one of them were in focus. So I said, okay, that's pretty good. Batting 100. So I was like, again, I wanted to test more. So I went to a different area where I knew there was more traffic the next day. On that day, I photographed about 500 frames, 597, I think it was. And I had the camera stationary, and I let the cars come into the frame and then leave. And out of those 597, there were 4 frames that were not sharp. Now, I can't necessarily say that that was the lens's fault, because the tracking only carried it so far. So I'm still going to say there were 4 frames out of almost 600 frames that weren't sharp, but I don't really know if I can say it was the lens or if it was just the focusing area on the camera. So the third day that I went out, I photographed on a windy road, didn't have a lot of vehicles coming by, about 250, 260. And out of those, all the frames but 2 were sharp. So, and again, I don't know if I can honestly say it was me or the camera, because I was hand holding that day and I was panning a little bit. And the cars did come fairly close. So the last day was the day that I went to the racetrack. and I photographed 2,235 frames, had it on the tripod with the gimbal, had the cars coming out of a curve at about 300 yards away. By the time they passed me, they were less than 100 yards out. But it was fairly consistent. They came down, curved from right to left, and then back out to the right. And I panned with them on some. I kept them on stationary focus, let them track it, through itself. So out of 2,235 frames, 12 were not sharp. And out of those 12, probably 4 of them where the vehicles had left the frame. The only thing that was in the frame was the back bumper, or the rear quarter panel, or part of the rear quarter panel on the frame. So the ones that beyond that, the other 8 that weren't, it could have been just simply, I had multiple cars in the frame, and I was hitting the back of the camera trying to get it to focus, select the point of focus. And I know that I missed a few of those, so I'd still venture to say there was less than 5 that were the lens wasn't able to lock on and maintain the focus. So in short, I'm looking at almost 4,000 frames. Almost 4,000 frames, and out of that, less than 20 weren't sharp. And again, out of that, I would say less than 5 of those were possibly related to the lens, maybe lens camera combination. So I was really absolutely amazed at how well it focused, how quickly it locked on to focus. Because what I was doing is I was hitting a point, and then I would hit my rear button focus is the way that I focus. And the ones that maybe I missed, I had the spot, the car came down a little bit lower, a little bit higher, so it may not have locked on right. But I would say out of 4,000 to have really less than 5 that you could look at and attribute to possibly camera lens combination or lens, that's a phenomenal return. I've never had any lens camera combination be able to do that. I know there's some other testing going on with birds with similar results. But again, I didn't want to photograph birds in flight because a lot of that is the photographer, how fast you can acquire the bird in the sky, lock it in, zoom, and everything else. So what I'm going to do after I just give you my glowing endorsement of the new firmware, I'm going to put some of those images in there. I'm going to put some of the video that's in there. And again, absolutely amazing results. I can't wait to get it out, get it onto my lenses versus the lens that was, I was testing it on. I want to get it on to all of mine that are going to be upgraded, the 150 to 500 and the 50 to 400. I'm heading to Wyoming in a couple weeks. I'll be photographing wildlife out there. I know I'm going to have some chances to photograph trumpeter swans, hopefully some eagles, moose, bison, everything. I'm really excited about it. I think that when you get it on there, and again, there's nothing wrong with the first firmware version. I was completely satisfied. In Alaska with the bears and the eagles and everything else, I had 90% to 95% success rate. To go from 95 or 98 to 99 or greater, I'll take that. All right, we are getting ready to do the firmware update to the Tamron 50-400 Sony mount lens. You can't see because I'm just recording the screen, but I'm getting ready to connect it to the USB-C connector. And let's see. We're connected. It has now decided that it wants to, it's found the lens. I'm going to go over here and say firmware version. Click on that, new firmware available. So really all you're going to do is open the app, connect the lens, go to where it says firmware version, and then you're going to click update. Probably as I update this, I'm not going to go through the whole thing with you. I don't know how long it'll take, but I'll give you an idea at the end exactly how long it takes to do it. Well, it's actually pretty quick. So maybe we'll leave it on there. All right, this is going to improve the focusing and everything else as well. It is completed, so I'm going to go ahead and click remove, and at this point in time it's done. So that's all you have to do to get all those features I was talking about in the video. Thank you. So anyway, get that firmware into your lens, play with it. You're going to absolutely love it. Hope you enjoy the images. And beyond that, a little bit of the video. Just thank you again, David Akubian, Bearwoods Photography, Tamron Image Master. If you like the videos and you want to see more of them, go ahead and subscribe to my page. Give it a thumbs up, and we'll keep them coming. So thank you. Have a great day. Have a great holiday season as well.